All right, you guys, if you're tuning in, this is just a chill session. You get me? Right now, I'm kind of just rearranging my decks, kind of playing solitaire with them, and kind of layering a remedial lesson. A lot of times with tarot, it's a language kind of when it comes to, think of it like Pictionary, honestly. It's you and your spirit or whoever you're communicating with kind of allowing you to convey particular concepts of energy within the symbolism of the cards. So looking at the cards and also kind of understanding the different contexts behind them. Not only do you have like aces and wands, like these represent elements, the numbers represent concepts, and on top of that are layered. And on top of that, perceiving like the person that you're reading for, you know. So I once in a while like to go back into my decks and kind of like rearrange them, kind of review them and really like look through them, because a lot of times decks have particular different concepts attached to them, and you want to understand individual contexts with the decks that you're using, because the context is what spirit is utilizing to give you or convey the messages. You know, if you don't know what it is that you have in your data set when it comes to what spirit is utilizing to communicate with you, then it's kind of like, okay, you're giving me a dictionary, you don't know all the words, and I'm telling you the words. So it's kind of like, it's like that, you know, understanding the decks that you're using, because spirit is utilizing that glossary to convey certain messages to you. In this instance, I'm using probably one of the first decks that I got. I think the Crow deck was my first deck, but this is like my second one. As I was saying, I like to go through my decks and kind of rearrange them. I don't know, I feel like sometimes it kind of, you know, reacquaints you with the imagery on the decks, and as well as adds additional layers. You know, this thing's been through it. So allowing and aligning the different perceptions that it's allowed me to perceive kind of adds additional contexts to the imagery that's on it, like I stated before. So I like going through them and reestablishing kind of like the insights. Because sometimes you find kind of new, I don't know, new correlations that have always been there, but with the expansion of like your intuitiveness and you really getting in line with your higher self and all versions of yourself. You get me? There's no better or worse version. You get me? Even the worst perceived version of yourself is still part of the totality that makes you you. So I feel like a lot of times persons get caught up in like this like love and light kind of thing where, yes, the creator, the totality that is, has those aspects, but it also has those dark aspects. You know, sometimes you need that dark energy to get you towards what it is that you're trying to do. You know, think of times where, let's say, things that are perceived as like low vibrational. Like, let's say you're embarrassed, you know, how many embarrassing situations have you been in that have been the catalyst for you being able to do what you needed to do beforehand? You know, sometimes these things lead to what it needs to be led to for the lesson to be learned, you know. And time kind of like delegates whether or not you perceive something as good or bad, you know. You meeting somebody for the first time could be the best day of your life. 2 years down the line, it could also be the worst day of your life. Both of those feelings are valid. What separates them is time and layered experiences that shape perceptions, and for good or bad, depending on the situation, can benefit you in your kind of progression in this state of being, in this plane of existence. Oh, my readings are on point, girl. All right, so we have the Ace of Cups. Cups deals with, you know, emotional, interpersonal relationships, things that we find emotional value in. So when you see Ace of Cups, it tends to deal with, you know, maybe a relationship opportunity coming in, someone offering you a deeper kind of scope of a relationship dynamic, It could also relate to, things that you deem as emotionally fulfilling coming in, giving you the opportunity to like expound on that. So aces are all about opportunities. Think of ace in a hole. When you think you're in a rut and you're given the opportunity to do the work to get out of it, but it's that spark that you take from the ace. For instance, ace of coins. Ace of coins deals with things that are tangible. Aces, as I said, were seeds. Coins deal with physicality. So physical aspects of this plane of existence. So think of it like contracts, jobs, houses, rent, money, food. When it's put in the aspect of ace, it deals with an opportunity, maybe a new job, maybe a new revenue stream, seedlings, an opportunity that you can utilize to grow upon, Then you have the ace of swords. The ace of swords, swords being the element of air, intellect, cerebral kind of processes in alchemy. Aces deal with opportunities and seeds. So think of it like an idea coming in. Think of it like a confirmation via email or via text or via some mode of ether in this plane. So that is a good way of looking at ace of swords. A conversation that needs to be had, a communication. If you've been awaiting kind of someone texting you, like this is kind of that energy. Then you have ace of wands. And wands deal with energy, deals with the fire within you, the passion, the things that ignite your will, things that make you want to do something. So ace of wands deals with opportunities that ignite that and spark that. So if you're passionate about singing, ace of wands would present an opportunity of maybe you going to a concert or someone inviting you to a class where you can, work on your vocal cords. Like these are opportunities that enhance that spark or that passionate fire that you have within you that allow you to, do what needs to be done. Why do you start a fire, girl? To cook, to stay warm. The ignition of fire allows whatever it is that you're intending to alchemize. But you need to start that fire. So ace of wands deals with those opportunities that allow you to take that spark and expound on it, So it's a little bit of the aces, the four, air, fire, earth, and water. So when you're dealing with major arcanas deal with they're bigger themes in life. They typically in readings signify a grander scope of situation or a person, depending on the context and obviously the reading and what is intended on the message. So yeah, major arcana are definitely important when it comes to getting an understanding as to where this energy could be coming from, either a person, place, thing. So each major arcana has a particular kind of like theme or story behind it. So, and if you want to go even deeper, each major arcana has a particular zodiac sign that's associated with it as well too. So there's a lot of different aspects to astrology, just to tarot, just as much as there is to astrology. You have people that have a surface kind of understanding of astrology where it's like, astrology, I know my sun sign. If you know a little bit more, you know your moon sign. And that's how most people know. Now it's getting a lot more deeper, but it goes deeper than that. It's what sign is your house in, what degree is that planet in, what aspects that planet. These different aspects and these different kind of layers of astrology add even deeper context as to what it is that you're like trying to perceive or like read. So a lot of the times we're in a fucking Russian doll, where it's like, what do you call it? Where it's just an egg, a doll within a doll within a doll within a doll. You get me? So the more layers of perception that you have, the more context and picture that you can see that allows you to deduce and make an assumption, an opinion, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to what it is you're perceiving, you know. How much do you want to know? It's really about it. It's like, do you want to know what they sell at McDonald's? Okay, yeah, they sell burgers. How much do you want to know? Do you want to know what's in those burgers? Okay, they're patties. Okay, how much do you want to know? Do you want to know which cow they came from? Okay, how much do you want to know? Do you want to know the serial number of that cow to see what farm it came from? You know, it depends on your interest level. The same way it depends on what's the biggest number, girl. Depends on how high you want to count and your attention span, quite honestly. Sun, moon, the world card is the last card. You get me? Western or Vedic? Okay. If you know, you know. I love that. I love that question. Honestly, bro, tell me the Vedic. Vedic, I want to tell you where your actual planets are. You get me? Not to say that Western or Vedic is better or different. I just feel like Vedic kind of hit different. So go ahead and drop it, bro. Drop it. The kid hasn't been in the mix in a minute. In Vedic, my sun is Aquarius, my moon is Virgo, and my ascendant is Taurus. Okay. So, man, I want to give you a hug for that Virgo moon. You get me? That one is a toughie. But I like that sun in Aquarius because it's going to force you to get out of the idea of needing your emotions to be a particular way until you express them. You know, that sun in Aquarius is going to force your personality and ego to rely on authenticity. Like, even though you could probably fake it, it would irk you so much in doing so that you will literally force yourself into kind of rationalizing or kind of, you know, telling yourself to evoke or display this emotion so that you don't feel intimidated by it. Taurus rising too, though, that's a lot of earth energy in there. So I think with you, it's just really kind of, when you feel like you're being stubborn, then you're like being overly stubborn, if that makes sense. It's always kind of like rationalizing your like stubbornness. You get me? Because you have a lot of like fixed energy in your chart. So that's a lot of like you being very cemented in your ideologies, especially with that Virgo moon. You get me? So really, it's really kind of like humbling yourself enough to kind of take in insights that may go against what you perceive as being such. But I feel like that Aquarius sun is gonna force you to do so. Like, you may give off the impression that you're kind of like relatable, but you're very old school and you're kind of in yourself. You know, like people might look at you like thinking you're mad progressive, but in actuality you're very old school. Yeah. Hold on, yeah. Let me make sure that this. Let me add my Twitch. I'm here sending people to things that are not even here. Like, it's so sloppy. Earlier we were talking a little bit about like the different suits in tarot. We went over the Ace of Cups, the Ace of Swords, the Ace of Coins, and the Ace of Wands. And honestly, what I'm doing right now is just kind of organizing my decks into their suits. I like to do that just to kind of like reset the energy and then just do a shuffle. All right, you guys, I'm back. So you know the law of attraction and manifestation. Yes, like one of many laws. But in what aspect are you talking about? Like, what do you think? Like, what are you asking? Are you asking on different like manifestation techniques, or honestly, it just depends on the person and their kind of energetic impression and cosmic equation. I think a lot of times that's what like religion or spiritual practices kind of help people discover, is kind of like their connection with the totality that is, and finding the mechanics that allow to induce the things that we're wanting to render in this kind of plane. So finding what fits. Think of it like you're wanting to lose weight, so finding the right diet or the right fitness plan that works with you authentically. And for some people that might be keto, for other people that might be intermediate fasting, for some people it might be Hinduism, for other people it might be Buddhism, for some people it might be curating different stones and minerals, and for others it might be divination and scrying. Find your relationship with your totality and see what mechanic works best. People usually question that if law of attraction or manifestation were real, we aren't crazy people, master manifestors. But to say that, I say all sorts of people considered insane throughout history managed to manifest crazy things. I've honestly, insanity along with chaos is just misunderstood order. Insanity is just something that's misunderstood until the time and experiences overlay the kind of context for somebody to be able to digest it. Like, think of it like if you were to go back into the 1800s and tell somebody, I can make this metal fly, they'll look at you like you're crazy and insane. If you ask somebody now that, like in 2025, hey, I can make metal fly, they'll look at you like you're dumb. They'll be like, yeah, duh, there's planes in the sky. So it's time and experiences that rationalize things that are deemed insane as things that are kind of obvious. So don't be caught up. Yep, that too. I was thinking of people like Rasputin, who became the advisor of Tsar after healing the Tsar's son, the Mad Baron, who declared that the war, god of war, by the Dalai Lama, and so on. Titles, labels, these are at a matter of context and who they're being projected on. We're entering era, honestly, where if you're relying just looking at people or reading by label, you're going to be lost in the sauce. You need to practice discernment. Labels just tell you or give you reference points as to the actions someone does. Just because somebody is, let's say, a nurse doesn't deem them a good person. It just deems them as a doctor's assistant who's able to mend wounds and take your blood. Society and social constructs allow people the comfortability of just relying heavily on labels. But we're entering an era now where it's like, fuck your labels. Like, what is it how are you as a person? Girl, I don't give a fuck that you're vegan, girl. What does that tell me about your character? All that tells me is that you just eat veggies. It doesn't tell me that you won't kill my mommy. You get me? So a lot of these things are kind of shifting in society. The reason I'm talking about this is because I used to study history, and a lot of the primary sources are way crazier than the secondary ones. And the official narratives about history, I mean, hello, look at religion. What is religion but somebody else's experience with the totality that is, and giving you a play-by-play as to how they achieved that, Just when you're saying primary sources, the perfect example is that example with if you place an apple in the middle of 10 people from different parts of the world, they're going to paint the apple differently, but each of them are correct. So it's the same way, like it's somebody's perception of what they're perceiving. It's the same thing. Somebody looking at the source and adding their biases or perceptions to it and condensing it, For example, Harriet Tubman reported using astral projection and psychic phenomena to avoid being caught by slavers during the Underground Railroad. Yeah, I mean, anything is in the scope of possibility. You get me? just as much as that's in the scope of possibility, there's a lot of different like things that are within history that are within the scope. What are the origins of this plane? Like what? I mean, were we here already in America? Were we brought here? If we were brought to America, where are these boats? Like, I mean, what is going on? Like, what is the authentic history of this diaspora that is? You get me? So, I think we're seeing it. The universe is really feeding it little by little to us. It's like, look at the epiphanies that have been all along. Like this whole vendors things in China. Like this is a common conversation within socially constructed minorities. When I say that, I mean like, society deems certain diasporas as minorities, when in actuality, it's further from the case. But I say this to say, like, these are conversations that have been had. You get me? But because now we're in a time where a lot of the floor ground has been evened out, and when I say that, I mean socially constructed costumes that persons used to utilize to validate their existence no longer work, whether it be your skin color, whether it be your gender, whether it be like your sexuality. So now it's kind of just people are seeing it for what it is. Like, oh my gosh, China is. You mean that fake coach is the same as the real coach? It's just that coach has their name on it. Yeah, girl, this is a common talking point within socially constructed minorities. You get me? But because now you're seeing society for what it is, like DEI hires, like who are really the benefiters of this, Social Security, food stamps, like you're seeing the authenticity of it. There's no hiding from it. So yeah, man, there's just a lot of things transpiring within the diaspora that's going to bring about, momentum and change. But yeah, you guys, these are some really good questions. All right, you guys, I'm gonna hop off. I'm gonna do some readings for today. I'll look forward to them on my stream. I mean, on the, what do you call it? On YouTube. Yeah, so take care. Thank you so much for tuning in, and bye.